My sister didn't hesitate. Her tone was crisp, practiced, final. It's only for family. I stood there, phone pressed against my ear, and slowly realized I had just been uninvited from my parents' anniversary celebration, the very party I helped pay for. In that single sentence, I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was an inconvenience. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. Instead, a colder, heavier feeling settled over me. If I wasn't family in their eyes, I wasn't bound by their expectations either. And the choice I made next would unravel everything they believed they controlled. Before I get into how it all unfolded, hit like, drop a comment with where you're watching from. If you've ever felt invisible, share that too. My name is Lissa. I'm in my mid-30s, and I work as a freelance photographer. Nothing fancy, no big brand name to boast about. Just me, my camera, and long hours chasing light that feels real. I've always preferred work that speaks quietly for itself. Maybe that's why my family realized early on that I wouldn't make a fuss, even when carrying more than my fair share. From the outside, our family looked stable, respectable, the kind neighbors called close. Holiday cards pinned on the fridge, framed photos lining the hall, smiles that lingered just the right amount. Inside, though, roles were set early. My sister was the one everyone talked about, talented, magnetic, always at the center of every story. My brother was the planner, the calm voice explaining why things had to be the way they were. And then there was me, quiet, reliable, the one who made problems disappear without needing recognition. I helped with money, not because anyone explicitly demanded it, but because the need was always implied. Messages about urgent repairs, bills piling up faster than expected, a temporary rough patch, payments flowed instinctively, like an apology sent before anyone could ask. Every transfer felt like proof that I belonged, like keeping the foundation solid would secure my place in the family. Gratitude came in small doses, a brief thank you, a soft, you're a lifesaver, and then the conversation moved on. No one asked how it felt to always fill the gaps. No one wondered what it cost me to stay dependable. I told myself that's how families work. Someone has to be the steady one. When my parents' anniversary approached, I learned about it indirectly. Not from an invite, not from them, just offhand comments, mentions of dates, remarks about everyone gathering. I assumed I was included, as always. Why wouldn't I be? I had helped cover costs, supported them for years. I was their daughter. That assumption held, right up until it didn't. Until I realized I wasn't part of the celebration at all. The truth didn't hit all at once. It crept up quietly, like it had been waiting for me to notice. By the time I fully understood, it was too late to pretend this was a misunderstanding. The weeks leading to the anniversary felt off. Nothing explosive, no arguments, just small, frequent requests that lingered in the back of my mind. One afternoon, my sister texted, casual as ever. She needed help covering travel costs for a relative. It's not much, she said. The number wasn't tiny, but it wasn't negligible either. I stared at the message longer than usual, not because I couldn't afford it, but because I was tired of treating these asks as temporary. So I said no. One word. No explanation, no apology. Her reply came quickly, not angry, but disappointed, the kind of disappointment meant to sting softly. She told me she didn't expect this from me, that everyone relied on things running smoothly, that I was adding unnecessary stress on our parents during an important time. Guilt surged automatically. I almost caved. Almost. But I didn't. And that's when things started to shift. Calls slowed. Messages became brief, clipped. When I reached out, conversations ended quickly, wrapped in thin politeness that felt sharp. I told myself I was imagining it. Families go through phases. People get busy. But the silence carried weight. It pressed in deliberately. A few days later, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. I called my sister to confirm the anniversary details, dates, location, simple logistics. There was a pause, not a dropped call, not bad reception, but long enough that it was clear she was choosing her words carefully. Then she said it again, it's only for family. Calm, controlled, No explanation, no apology. She said it as if reminding me of a fact I should have known all along. I gripped the phone tighter, knuckles pale. I asked what she meant. Another pause, then sharper. Space was limited, decisions already made. My parents wanted a simple celebration. She said many things, but never the one thing that mattered. I wasn't invited. Not overlooked, not forgotten, excluded. After hanging up, I sat in my car, engine off, listening to the faint hum of traffic. I replayed the last few years in my mind. Every payment, every late night conversation where I reassured them, every time I stepped in so no one else had to feel uncomfortable. I thought of the guest list I'd overheard. Friends, relatives, neighbors, all the people who hadn't helped keep the lights on, all the people who made the cut. That's when it hit me completely. I hadn't been supporting a family. I'd been funding a version of it that didn't actually need me there. In that picture, I wasn't a daughter. I was just a line item, useful, quiet, replaceable. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It wasn't the party that shattered me. It was realizing this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, one they were perfectly comfortable making. That night, silence fell in a way I wasn't used to. Not the comforting, gentle kind of quiet. The kind that makes you notice the fridge humming, the tick of the wall clock, the sound of your own breath, strange and unfamiliar when no one else is asking anything of you. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I expected the flood of anger, sadness, the desperate need to justify myself to someone who might finally get it. It never came. Instead, an almost clinical calm settled in. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, not to work, but out of habit. The screen glowed with half-edited photos, light and shadow captured perfectly. People framed so you could understand them at a glance. And I realized I'd been doing the opposite in my own life, showing too much of myself so everyone else could be comfortable in the frame. I closed the laptop. For the first time in years, I didn't think about what I owed anyone. I thought about what it might feel like to step out of the role I'd been cast in. Not with drama or anger, just quietly. The thought came fully formed. If I wasn't family to them, I didn't need to keep performing as if I were. No arguments needed. No permission required. I packed slowly, not like someone running away, but deliberately. Camera first, good lens, a couple of memory cards, clothes that felt like me, not like a visitor showing up out of obligation. I arranged everything on the bed and noticed my hands weren't shaking. I called my best friend. She answered on the second ring. I told her I was leaving town. I didn't explain why. I didn't need to. She asked where I was going. Paris, I said, surprised at how effortlessly the words came out. She didn't laugh, didn't question it. She just offered to help me book it and asked me to send the dates. That was it. No speeches, no advice, just support. Later, as I zipped up my suitcase, I felt a subtle shift. I wasn't creating distance to punish anyone. I was claiming space so I could hear myself again. That difference mattered. The next morning at the airport, the world felt neutral. No one knew me. No one expected anything. Surrounded by strangers, I felt lighter than I had in years. As the city shrank beneath the plane, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was finally moving towards something I'd put off for far too long. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. It wasn't even defiance. It was the first boundary I'd ever drawn without needing to explain myself. And once it was drawn, I knew things wouldn't go back to how they were. The version of me who kept everyone comfortable at my expense no longer existed. The anniversary weekend arrived quietly. Paris woke without a clue about my family. Lights spilled between the buildings. Scooters rattled past cafes as chairs were set out. I stood by my hotel window, coffee warming my hands, and felt something new, permission. No one needed anything from me. No one was waiting for me to fix or smooth anything over. Back home, the party was already underway. I didn't see it, but I could picture it perfectly. White linens insisted on by my mother. My father, a little too stiff in his jacket, smiling for photos. The room filled with people who knew our family well enough to admire it. A band in the corner, laughter rising and falling, glasses clinking, and one chair left empty. I hadn't planned anything dramatic. That's what mattered. I didn't wake intending to make a statement, didn't craft a message, or rehearse a line. That afternoon, I did what I always do in a new place. I walked until something caught my eye. The river glimmered like brushed metal in the late sun. Couples leaned against the railing. A street musician tested notes softly. I raised my camera and followed the light, frame by frame. I wasn't chasing perfection. I was chasing honesty. Back in my room, I edited a few shots. Nothing heavy. No captions explaining my choices. No mentions of home, just images of where I was and how it felt to breathe there. When I posted them, I wrote a simple line about chasing quiet moments and letting joy unfold. That was it. I put my phone down and went to dinner alone. The restaurant was small, tables close together, the smell of bread and butter in the air. I ate slowly, listening to conversations I couldn't understand, watching people live their stories without intersecting with mine. For once, solitude didn't feel like absence. It felt like space. Back at the party, my absence began to make itself felt. At first, subtly, a cousin asking my mother where I was, a neighbor glancing around, someone assuming I'd arrive late. My mother smiled through it, offering vague explanations. She was busy. Work explanations always sound reasonable, right up until they fall apart. Then someone pulls out their phone. My post appeared in the room without context. Paris at dusk. Coffee at a window. Light falling exactly where it should. The question didn't come out loud immediately. It moved subtly from person to person. Quiet, persistent. Why isn't she here? My sister noticed the shift before anyone spoke. She kept fidgeting, adjusting place cards, checking on the band, forcing smiles that were too bright. Control was her comfort, and it was slipping. By the time dinner began, the room felt different. Conversation stalled. Laughter hit the wrong notes. Someone asked my mother directly why her daughter wasn't joining the celebration. My mother's response wavered. She tried to smooth it over, but the cracks were obvious. I didn't know any of this yet. I was walking back to the hotel, the city warm around me, when my phone started vibrating. I let it ring. Another call came, then a third, seconds apart. I stopped on the sidewalk, watching the screen light up. Home. Curiosity, not panic. I waited until the calls stopped before going inside. The first message was from my mother. Short. Urgent. She asked me to call immediately. No explanation, just polite insistence. I waited. When I finally answered, her voice broke as soon as she said my name. She told me people were confused, that guests were asking questions, that things were getting out of hand. I listened silently, leaning against the window, watching headlights drift along the street below. Then she said it. My post had caused a scene. People were talking. Some had even left early. She asked why I would do this to them. I asked what she meant. Silence. Then she said I knew, that I should take it down, help smooth things over. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her. I just said I hadn't mentioned the party, or them. People were reacting to what they saw, not what I had written. She had no reply. The call ended with a request to think about the family. Minutes later, my sister called. Her tone was sharper, accusatory. I'd humiliated them, made our parents look bad. Selfish, seeking attention over loyalty. She demanded I remove the post immediately. I asked when she had decided I wasn't family. She tried to talk over me, insisting I was being dramatic, twisting things, that adults handle conflict differently. I waited. Then I said calmly, clearly, do we even know each other? Silence. Not shock, just exposed, empty silence. The kind that happens when the script someone has been using stops working. She hung up. My brother called next. Structured, deliberate. I'd escalated something that could have been handled. I should have approached them privately. Image, professionalism, consequences. My post could have repercussions I hadn't considered. I told him I had been considering them for years. Through payments, patience, silence. I was done fixing problems I hadn't caused. He sighed, the way he does when reason should prevail. He said I was overreacting. An hour later, he posted vaguely about priorities and loyalty. Comments didn't follow the path he expected. People asked why I hadn't been invited if I contributed, why family came with conditions. No reply. That night, I slept with the window open. The city hummed on, indifferent to my family's unease. Morning brought sunlight cutting a clean line across the floor. Rested, not triumphant, just settled. Back home, the party fell apart as questions arose. Guests drifted away quietly. The band packed up early. My parents were left with untouched centerpieces and cake. The version of the evening they had planned couldn't survive contact with the truth. I didn't gloat. I didn't follow updates. I let distance handle what I had long done for everyone else. Later, my phone buzzed again. My mother's name appeared. This time her voice was smaller. She asked me to come home. They wanted to fix things, return to normal. I realized normal had always meant me paying and disappearing. I told her I wasn't angry. I was done pretending. I was building something different. She cried. I didn't move. The call ended. I stood by the window. Boats drifted along the river, steady, unconcerned. I thought of all the times I stayed quiet to preserve a peace that only flowed one way. The confrontation hadn't been dramatic. No shouting match, no storming out. Just honesty and a silence that finally did what my explanations never could. The days afterward felt lighter. Not easy, but lighter. Noise thinned naturally. Messages and calls slowed. What remained was quiet that demanded nothing from me. Back home, the story settled into something understandable. Facts. No rumors. No drama. I wasn't invited, yet I had contributed. Questions resolved themselves. Friends of my parents drifted polite and distant. Invitations ceased. Conversations shortened. The image my family had relied on required effort, and no one wanted to maintain it. My parents reached out again, softer now. They wanted to reset. No apologies. No acknowledgement of exclusion. They only wanted things to feel familiar. I understood. Familiar had always meant my silence and support. I gave them neither. I stayed in Paris longer, not to avoid, but because work found me there. A gallery requested more of my work. A magazine editor wrote, "Your photos feel honest, like they're not trying to impress anyone." I booked shoots, answered emails about art, not obligation. Thoughts of family no longer cut sharply. They felt distant, an old role I had outgrown. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had stepped out of a pattern that erased me. Peace didn't arrive with applause. It came quietly in mornings that belonged to me, work that demanded vision over sacrifice. For the first time, the aftermath wasn't my responsibility to clean up. I didn't win against my family. I didn't take from them. I simply stopped shrinking so they could stay comfortable. That was the real shift. Family isn't a debt you endlessly repay to stay included. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're clarity. If you've ever been excluded by those you kept showing up for, remember this. Choosing yourself isn't cruelty. It's accuracy.